Welcome to The Soul's Journey with your host, Tracy Escobar. The Soul's Journey tells the story of everyday people who overcome life's toughest lessons and want to use their voice to share and give hope to others walking a similar path. These are stories of hope, stories of healing, stories of empowerment. So now, please welcome the host of The Soul's Journey, Tracy Escobar.
Hey everybody, welcome back to The Soul's Journey right here on Bull Brave TV. Sorry for the late start. We've had some technical difficulties in the beginning, but we are here and I'm super excited for today's show, today's guest, having some really open dialogue about some trauma and like some really cool healing practices. I can't wait till towards the third segment of the show that we can get into the healing part of it. But today we're going to talk about abandonment and abandonment as a trauma. And abandonment can have a profound effect on us, even if it comes from being a child having abandonment trauma, even an adult having abandonment trauma. It plays a huge role on our physiological body, on our mental health, on our physical health, right? And so I think it's just super important that we talk about that and how it affects us. I have some things that abandonment trauma can cause as far as psychological things that we can deal with. There is a heightened fear of rejection. There can also be a deep-seated fear of forming close relationships and bonds with other people. You can have difficulties forming and maintaining relationships with other people. There's a lot of characteristics on self-sabotaging, isolation, feelings of loneliness. There's a constant need for validation because you just don't want people to leave anymore, right? Even self-destructive tendencies can play a part in the trauma of abandonment. And the guest that I have on today has some experience around abandonment and that she's going to talk about and what led her into her healing and now what she does for a living, living her purpose. And so I have a little bit of her bio that I'm going to read from you. Her name is Danielle Hayes. I believe right now she's in Canada, but we've got a lot of people who are going to be watching day from Ireland. So we're going to welcome them to the show as well. If you have questions, please, you can drop them in the comments and we'll read them on air, or you can even call in if you want to the 866-451-1451. So we want to have you interact with us, ask her questions. It's so cool that she gets to be here today with us. So Danielle has an amazing story of abandonment and now uses her knowledge to help people heal their nervous system and all the accompanying illnesses that result from stored traumatic imprints in the body. Danielle is a trauma-informed somatic therapist. I can't wait to find out what that even means because I don't even know. She's trained in traumatology and PTSD, the vagus nerve toning, and energy healing. She specializes in trauma release, somatic expressioning, nervous system regulation and rewiring, vagus nerve toning, and energy mastery. She offers a multitude of offerings in her practice, and her work is mostly based off neuroscience, polyvagal theory, and neuroplasticity. Whew, there's a lot of big words. So without further ado, I want to welcome to our show, The Soul's Journey, Danielle Hayes. Welcome!
Hi!
I'm so glad you're here. Did you get everybody situated?
Oh, thank you for having me.
Yeah.
I was getting shivers as you were giving the introductions. Even when you were speaking about the abandonment, I was like, yep, that's me. Yep,
That's
that
me.
was
That's
me.
what I got. I know.
Oh my God.
I can't wait to just dive in. I know I had Lulu, and I know you know Lulu. I had her on the show last week, and it was just a fascinating show and so much knowledge that she brought to the table for all of our listeners. Because, me and you have talked, the show is really about our trauma and what we did to heal and how we're living our purpose now. And I love what you're doing now and to help people heal. And you've got so many different techniques that you use. So towards the end of the show, I can't wait to kind of get in there and break it down. But I want to learn more about you. Where are you from? Tell us a little bit about yourself.
So I'm from Dublin, Ireland. I was born and raised there. I've only ever lived outside of Ireland for 1 year when I was teaching. I went to Abu Dhabi for a year. So I'm Irish through and through, I suppose.
Good. Yeah, I love the
I'm
accent.
36. Yeah, that's right. I love your accent. But I'm 36. I was a teacher for 11 years, a high school teacher. So I taught geography and religion, and there was like relationship ed and stuff like that. And then the last 2 years of my teaching career, I ended up in special education, and that's when like my awakening just went boom, and that's what led me into this. But I'm currently in Canada at the minute, I suppose, expanding and learning and growing, maturing myself, like as a soul and as a human being, aside from the practice, I'm still healing, I'm still growing.
And it never stops, right? I feel like it just
never stops.
Never stops. I went through my little healing journey like 7 years ago, and I'm still going through it. Things still pop up. You think, okay, I tackled that. Why am I doing this now? It's like a never ending. I feel like I'm chasing the tail all the time, trying to figure out why I am, who I am, and how do I fix who I am, and all the above. You're coming to Dallas soon, yes?
Oh, I'm getting shivers again. Sorry, that spirit like confirming down through me. So I'm in Dallas on the 25th. I fly in, and then I'm there till the 31st. But it's wild how it aligned, because like I connected with Lulu online, and then she was like, "Why don't you come down?" I was like, "Okay, why not?" I'm very much a go with the flow of things. Yeah.
Yeah, just say yes. Yeah.
Yeah, literally saying yes to everything.
Yes, and you're already booked out? Do you have a lot of bookings?
Well, I have two appointments left on the 27th, but that's
I'm gonna take one of them.
I'm completely full. Oh my god, totally come over.
Yes, I'm gonna take the 4 o'clock. I saw it, so I just wanted to see if it was still open. But
yay!
But I'll message you.
Oh my god, that would be amazing.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah, I want to experience it too. That way I can
enjoy it.
My clients. Yeah. Because I see a lot of people in my own practice, because I'm a medium, so I'm a psychic medium, but I see a lot of people with trauma that come and who are stuck in the mud, and they can't push through it, and they can't see things past right here, right? That's all they can see is the hurt and the pain and the trauma. So I tend to want to do my own healing and walk that own journey and experience some of those things, some of the things that I saw on your website and stuff. I'm like, oh my gosh, yes. So I'm so excited, but we'll get to the healing part later.
That's the thing though, because you have lived experience of it. I'm all about lived experience. So like clients for me, like soul friends, like they know that I've been through the journey myself, right? And I've gone through the healing process, and I'm still going through it. So just that automatic feeling of trust and safety. And that's so important for healing, is to feel safe with who you're working with, and that they've lived it themselves, they've gone through it themselves, same for yourself and your clients.
Yeah, no, I think so too. I think that's super important. And I think too, from a spiritual perspective, and I could be wrong, but I'm not mad at the things I've went through anymore. Like, because I feel like I needed to go through that to get where I'm at now, right? And now I have something to relate to people about, right? So when they come to me, I can hold space for them. I have empathy for them. I understand where they're sitting, but then I also understand where they can be. So, right after the healing, right? So I think that's magical.
I always say that to everyone: see me as your mirror. Where I am right now wasn't me 3 years ago or 4 years ago. If you had met me 5 years ago, you would have, who is that person compared to now?
Yes. That's what my friends all say. They're like, oh my God, you're such a different person than you were. I was like, yeah, that's what healing does, right? Take me down the road to your trauma. Where did your trauma begin? Childhood, adulthood, take me to the beginning. Take me where you started.
Oh, God, where do you actually start? Where do you start? How long have you got for this? Literally. So like, I suppose, so like, there's obviously a lot of ancestral trauma in my family line coming from Ireland itself. Like the energies in Ireland is very heavy. There's a lot of lack energy, and like we're such a young country, we're only like 100 years old. Like so much oppression, and especially female oppression. And I suppose that was carried through my family line, right? So, I mean, this is what I understood through all my somatic healing work on myself. I was like, oh my God, the amount of trauma in my family alone that I'm carrying in my genes, right? I had no awareness around it. But I suppose if I go to this immediate timeline with my parents, so like my mom, obviously, she married a chronic alcoholic, which she didn't know at the time. She was very sweet, vulnerable young girl when she met him. And she just lived a life of complete abuse with him. And then obviously me and my brother came along. But for me, and I'll just be absolutely open about it, like I was conceived non-consensually. So like I've been carrying that rejection wound from probably being in the womb space. My mom wasn't even aware she was pregnant. And obviously because my dad was so chronically abusive, like he physically hit my mom, like he hit my brother. My brother has scars on his face from all of the abuse, and emotionally very damaging behavior as well, so my mom, like, obviously had to come very masculine, but even in that environment, and this is how I practice with the nervous system regulation, like my mom would have experienced a lot of stress in the environment, so like she would have really high cortisol levels, high adrenaline levels, and obviously through the umbilical cord that's passed into the child. That's
Yeah, it
science,
is.
right? So that was
Yeah.
passed into me. Yeah. So
Yeah.
like that was all of that stress was channeling into me from the womb space, and even the birth itself was very traumatic for her. Like I was breech. I think I came out leg, arm. Like it was a very stressful birth for her. But that was all informed by the stress that was already going on, right?
Yeah.
But I suppose from that point, like with the trauma, the domestic, I suppose, abuse of violence that was in the home, like it alters your brain structure, right? So like obviously at the time when I was growing up, I didn't even realize that that wasn't normal what we experienced. That was my normal, right?
Right.
Like the stuff that I saw as a child, and I blocked out a lot of it. Like I've obviously opened up my limbic system. Like I've tried to channel memories, but like it's very difficult for me to go past probably the age of 9. I
Me
blocked out a
too.
lot of stuff. And that's very normal trauma response, right?
Mm-hmm.
But like from a very young age, like even if I look back at pictures of me as a little girl, I was overweight. So I obviously was emotionally eating.
Eating, yeah.
I was always pudgy as well. When someone has high cortisol levels, like we hold on to fat very easily, right? So pictures of me as
Yes.
a little girl was really overweight, right? But like
Yes.
there's so many, I know,
So
there's
many.
so many stories.
I
There's so many
know.
stories that I could share that like I experienced as a little girl. Like, just I never felt safe in the home. Like I it's a vision now of my dad like hitting my mom. I can just see it there. Like, and I remember even the night that he was taken out of the house by the Garda. Oh, I get a little emotional.
I'm
Um
sorry.
no, it's okay. That's what I mean. You think you've healed it,
Healing,
right? And then it just comes
right?
back up, right?
It
It's
still
getting
comes
healing out of
back.
this,
It's so
absolutely.
big. Yeah.
Um
I'm sorry.
But I was like, I loved my dad. Like he was his little princess, even though he was very abusive. Like, I mean, he used to shout into my face telling me that I was stupid and because I couldn't do my maths homework and but I loved him all the same. I still love him. I forgive him and I still love him. I've made peace with that. But like, I remember the night that he was taken out of the house, my mom had to get him legally taken out because he just wouldn't leave. I think I was 10, and I just remember I standing at the top of the stairs and just being so confused, like, but very frozen. And then I kept a relationship with him probably up until 15, and then I haven't seen him since. I've now had no contact since 15. I'm 36 now.
Was that your choice or
So,
his?
I can't really remember, to be honest with you.
Okay.
But I do remember like our next door neighbor, like being a drinking buddy with him still. And what was said back was, oh, you give up at some point.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
And
he
he's
just
still
gave up. I
living?
feel like he
Yeah.
is, yeah. So I had contact from his side of the family about a
Okay.
year, 2 years ago, and I actually went down to my grandmother's house and sat with my auntie and my cousin, and we spoke about what had happened. But I know he's very sick at the minute, and he apologizes for what happened and that like he chose to step away because he knew the damage and the hurt that he was doing. So.
Yeah.
But my mom was an amazing mother. Like but the
Yeah.
thing isn't the saying, like when you have an absent father, you have a mother that has to become masculine. So she had to harden up,
Yeah.
and there was just constant fighting between them, like, and even at some point, like I remember he used to like take money out of my mom's purse. So like we went without food. And there was another time actually he was that bad that my mom had to like take us and bring us to England and run away for a month and he didn't know where we were.
Wow. Lots
Yeah, so it's just unsafe completely.
unsafe.
Like,
What does an
yeah.
unsafe environment do to our body and our brain? How does our
Oh,
brain
yeah,
react?
cheers.
I know.
Well,
Because people
obviously,
don't
with
understand
the
this part, right? They don't understand
yeah, yeah,
how our act, because I feel like, sorry, I'm just gonna interrupt really quick. When we're
all
kids, we
right.
don't understand how bad it is, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we feel so
Mm-hmm.
resilient and we feel like, okay, we're kids, we can get over everything. But I don't know if it comes out later in life. How did you
Oh,
how did the trauma manifest later, right? Is that
absolutely.
what happens?
Yeah. In
Yeah, and
terms of
then our
traumatology, like how it affects
trauma.
the neurobiological pathway. So it obviously affects the architecture of the brain. So the brain
Okay.
is meant to form like basically like that. And safety should be the basic need, right? And then we should evolve into
Okay.
cognition, right? Whereas
Right.
when we experience trauma, the brain then forms this way, and then the base, the core of the brain functioning is all about staying
Mhm.
safe, right?
Wow. See,
So it actually
that,
alters the brain architecture, and then it affects obviously your biochemistry. So your nervous system then wires itself to fear mode, right? And
yeah,
then you live in survival states. That's where the likes of
survival.
anxiety and stress constantly comes in, and masculine energy. So I was very masculine up until a couple of years ago. You know, pushing,
Really?
going, over keys, and no
Yeah.
boundaries. Yeah. Mm.
Yeah. It's just so fascinating to me, trauma and healing. And but then you think trauma, so regular like therapies, like talk therapy, and you're just keep revisiting the trauma.
Hmm.
Like when I had
Yeah.
Lulu on, she made a really good point. It's not about the thing that happened, it's about what it did to you.
No.
And that's what has to get
Hmm.
fixed, right? And I
Hmm.
think so
Hmm.
many people miss that. Like I'm in a situation too with some of my girls and their trauma from childhood, but I'm not sure, this generation, they want the apology, but is the apology really going
Yeah.
to fix it? And even though if you apologize, there's still the hurt there, and there's still the cycle
Yeah.
of trauma response over and over and over. So I think Lulu made a good
Hmm.
point last
Hmm.
week. It's not about the thing, it's about what it did to you and how do you
What
rewire your
happens
brain.
internally. Yeah. So
Yeah.
like when we experience trauma and when it's cyclical, like, and the thing is, everybody's walking around with traumas, whether you
Everybody.
want to believe it or accept or not, everyone, even
Right.
mom to like tap you on the arm and say, don't do that. That's bold. That's a little trauma to a
That's
nervous system.
trauma.
Like
Yeah.
regardless, it's like, you move into
Yes.
shock state, right? And
Yes.
that if it's done through repetition, so the way the nervous system and the limbic system works in the brain, if it's done on repetition, it's being constantly wired in at a synapses between each nerve cell, and that's filtering down through your tree of life. So all
Okay.
your nerve cells, all your muscle cells, all your cells know is fear response.
That's
And then
it.
you
That's
start
all they
living
know.
out of fear and in it. Yeah. So it's
Yeah.
visceral.
Constantly.
Trauma is visceral. Hmm.
I'm writing all this down. Visceral. Visceral.
Yeah, take notes.
No, I do. It's just so fascinating. Trauma and the brain. And yeah, I think the reason why it's so fascinating to me, because I'm a medium, but I teach mediumship very differently. I teach it, a lot of it has to do with our brain and all the consciousness and everything that's
Mhm.
happening when I'm connecting to the higher self, spirit world, or whatever. It's all happening right here, right? So
Yeah.
my brain is very much involved, and so I'm very fascinated by the brain and what it does and what it can do and how it's linked
Yeah.
to our trauma. And like, yeah,
Hmm.
I spent probably 30 years in fight or flight, and how, like, that's a
Yeah.
lot. How do you fix 30
A
years
long
of fight
time.
or flight? It's hard, right?
It's
Still
hard,
going
but
through
it's
it.
absolutely possible. I mean, a lot of my clients, 90% are women, right? Because we're more receptive to healing, but like it's absolutely possible to heal your nervous system. And like the beauty in the somatic work and regulating the nervous system, you're bringing yourself out of a sympathetic state, which is the fight flight response, right? And then
Yeah.
you're balancing your parasympathetic, which is all the feminine energy. And a lot of my female clients have actually become mediums through this process because you're clearing the
See?
trauma, you're balancing your masculine, feminine, you're activating your right ear brain. So
Yes.
like it's pretty beautiful to watch everyone open up their psychic abilities just through regulation work alone. Like
Just through the regulation work. Yeah, no,
literally, yeah, it's really
yeah,
cool. It's a cool process.
yeah. And that's what I did for me when I decided, and we're going to talk about when you decided, right? But when I decided to heal,
Yeah.
I woke up one day feeling different. I can't even explain the energy difference. Like I was suffering with, I don't know, depression, but I just have a hard time energetically. Even taking a
Hmm.
shower was difficult. So when I say I woke up different, like the energy was crazy. I felt like I could run a marathon. Like it was so intense.
Yeah.
But I knew from that day I needed to do something better or different, because I was on this hamster wheel every day, the same thing, coming
Yeah.
home, work, blah, blah, blah. Right.
Hmm. Cycle.
So
Yeah.
cycle, I was on that cycle. And I
Mm.
remember starting meditating, right? And just starting to meditate and just starting to release my brain and get control of my brain. And that's when my psychic stuff started coming into play, just from
Yeah.
giving my brain some peace and quiet and learning how to control my brain. That's such a crazy thing. And people who teach mediumship,
Hmm.
I believe in meditation because you have to control the brain. Otherwise,
Mhm.
trying to connect to spirit with your brain shooting off all kinds of information and have no
So
control.
active.
You
Yeah.
know, right? Right. That's why people
Mhm.
can't meditate because
The
the brain is so overactive. Right. Go ahead.
active. But that's
Yeah.
the beauty in like regulating your nervous system, because when your brain is super active, like the way, like we obviously conscious brain, subconscious, and then our body is the unconscious. So like 80% of who we are is embodied, right? So if your
Right.
nervous system is dysregulated and it's in that high cortisol state where it's super active, hypervigilant, hypovigilant, like it's going to be very difficult to meditate. So I'll never guide people into meditation straight away. That's
Yeah.
the last segment when they're regulated. So breath, the likes of breath work, but the
You do
core
the
of that
breath.
is like vagus nerve toning. Yeah. So with
Yeah.
the vagus nerve, we can regulate the nervous system and like bring down the cortisol levels,
Okay.
raise the HRV levels. So you're balancing your internal, like your endocrine system, your immune system, like, and
Yeah.
then footage, you're somatically discharging stress energy. And that's when, if you look at any of the footage of clients, like you'll see them in their releasing, like that's the stress energy discharging from the nervous system that the trauma caused. Because when we experience trauma, the nervous system moves into a shock state. High
Yeah.
cortisol, the adrenal glands are super active. Yeah.
Yeah.
That feeling where you get like, oh, in your stomach. I still get it,
You feel it. Yeah.
Yeah.
You feel it.
Yeah. It's like,
Yeah.
if a car is driving by you and like you're like, oh,
Yeah.
it's a part of the human nervous system. We can never avoid it,
Yeah. It totally makes sense, right? Now that we're talking about it and
Yeah,
thinking back, right? It makes total
absolutely.
sense. But where was
Hmm.
all this back 10 years ago, 12, not
I
even probably
know,
later,
I
20 years
know.
ago, right? Where's the internet? Where can we
Yeah,
learn all this stuff, right?
yeah, yeah.
So take me to you.
Hmm.
Before you even started healing, how was the trauma showing up in your life, in your relationships?
So, like, first of all, what just come to my mind there, my period, my menstruation was late. I think I started menstruating at 15. And
Okay.
again, so when there's high stress levels in the body, it interferes with the womb, with the reproductive system and
Right.
the gut lining. So, like, from a very young age, obviously, I started menstruating very late and they were completely irregular. I thought at one point I had like PCOS. I remember getting blood tests done. They couldn't find anything. It was never diagnosed or anything. And I had
Okay.
chronic IBS my whole life, like all
Wow.
gassing, bloating, yeah. Um,
Everything. Yeah.
Physiologically, and then I pain marker wise, I had a lot of lower back pain.
Hmm.
Um, but that was all informed by other, I suppose, coping. I developed a lot of coping mechanisms to get me through life, and it was all based on being in survival. So, like, I had multiple eating disorders. I was obese up until I was probably 17, and then I developed bulimia in college for 2 years, I think. And I just hid that from everyone, hid that from my mom, my brother.
I did too.
And then from that,
I
yeah,
did too.
it's
I did
again,
too.
it's a coping mechanism. It's
Yep.
generally kind of like a flight response. But the deeper core of that is control, because you can't
Control.
control anything that's going on. You're controlling your food, you're controlling your body,
Hmm.
it's a coping
Hmm.
mechanism.
Yeah. As we go
Um,
through this, what else? Yeah, it keeps going. What else did you do?
you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
And then from what else? What else was there? From there, then I suppose I went into yo-yo dieting, and then I went into binging. So what I started to fast, but I'd fast for like 2 days, but I'd go on a heavy binge. On a Sunday was always my binge day, and I used to
Okay.
store food at the end of the bed, and I wouldn't
Oh,
tell like my brother or my mom because I'd be afraid that they'd touch it and eat it on me. So, but that was a
really?
vicious cycle all through
Vicious
my
cycle.
20s, probably until 30. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. What
yeah.
about how did this, like, not having your father around, how does that relate to
Mm.
relationships with men? Were you
Oh.
over anxious, jealous,
Mm.
all that kind of thing that kind of plays out because you're
Yeah.
afraid they're going to leave, over validating? Like, tell me about that. Yeah.
So I suppose with the abandonment mode, it can go two ways, right? It can go where you go serial dating and you're always, my brother went this way. Probably kill
Okay.
me for saying this live TV. Could not be with a woman, right? Whereas with me, I avoided it. And this was all unconscious. At one point, I thought I was gay because I couldn't understand. I was like, why am I not like, I've no drive, I've no want to interact with anyone. And it was only when I'd be drunk, because I obviously tapped into binge drinking. That was what
Binge
portal for me
drinking.
as well, and binge recreational drugs as well. So like I'd only interact with someone if I was like absolutely hammered drunk or if I was on drugs. Like, but when I did find interest in someone, they'd always be emotionally unavailable. I pulled in gay men, and men that were in Canada, not in Ireland again, because they were so far away. So I didn't actually have to be vulnerable, you know. So I was a shutdown, you know. Yeah, they were always not in the country, or they were big drinkers, or they were in relationships as well. So that I
God,
knew they weren't going to leave the person. But again, this was all unconscious. I didn't know at the time what I was doing, right?
because it
It was
was
so
safer to be
unconscious.
that person, because then they wouldn't leave you because they're not right.
Exactly.
I
It was
know.
safe. Yeah.
Safe.
Yeah.
That was a big
And I
word
had
for
a
me.
massive safety. Yeah.
Safety.
I
Yeah.
had a massive fear of intimacy as well, because with the eating disorder, I had very chronic like body dysmorphia. So like I remember even being on nights out where someone would touch me and I'd freeze. Like just the feeling of that, I'd be like, oh my God, get your hands off me. Like just so again, avoided even intimate interactions with people. Yeah. So I was kind of I said this to Lulu, I was a very late bloomer
Were
to all of it.
you?
So I only fell in
Well,
love. I only fell in love for the first time at 32. Like
really? But you finally got to feel it. But was that
yeah.
after Was that after
Yeah.
healing? Yeah.
No, that was the catalyst for healing, because
That,
because I avoided it, I pulled in the archetype of my father. He was literally my father in human form.
no way.
Yeah, literally. So I was
So
forced to heal through that.
you were. Okay. So let's take us to that part.
Yeah.
Adulthood, going through,
Yeah.
do you disassociate too? Because that's a big thing for me too. I don't know. That's another trauma response that I
Uh,
get. I disassociate a lot.
yeah.
I zone out. I go places. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. All the trauma response. So for me, trauma, I like to stay busy. So I have like 2 or 3 jobs, right? Okay. I'm trying
Mm-hmm.
to think of all the things. Weight has always been an issue for me. I was at like
Yeah.
130 a year ago, and now I'm at 163. So it's like a yo-yo constantly.
Yeah.
I have no memory. I forget childhood memories. I don't even like to go back to 5 years ago. I've in my mind, I
Mm.
have put everything in chapters, and I just don't even go back to the chapter anymore. I just keep closed. I keep the chapters closed, and I just think of now, right? So, and I know that that's a trauma response too. So, just trying to
Yeah.
think. But it's interesting. Before you're just going through life on autopilot, but when you go back and
Mm.
you start looking at yourself, you see, oh, wow, that's probably not healthy. Oh, wow, that was probably a trauma response, right? COVID is what made
Yeah.
me finally realize, because once
Yeah.
COVID hit and I was stuck in a house with nowhere to go, because at that time in my life, I was traveling all the time. Like I went into such a major depression and even thought of suicide. I went through some suicidal tendencies because I couldn't go nowhere. I couldn't be busy anymore, right? So that's when I was like,
Yeah. You're forced to look at
wow,
yourself.
you're forced to look at it. It's like, okay,
Mm.
look at those behaviors I was doing on autopilot, not thinking anything was wrong, and look at it now, right? So I'm sure you
Yeah.
went through all of that stuff too. And just, so
I
tell
think
me,
COVID was a massive blessing for
for
everybody,
everybody,
like
yeah,
because we couldn't move in Ireland, like the furthest we go was 2 kilometers. So like the gym was taken away, my friends were taken away. I couldn't go to school, couldn't go bring myself for coffee. So I was literally in the house having to heal. It was
yeah,
perfect now that I look back, even though it was really
yeah.
really hard at the time,
It was very, very hard. So take me to this
it's very hard.
person you met. So you fell in love at 32, finally. You met him. Yes.
It's
With all your
wild how it
baggage.
happened. Oh
Yes.
my God, with all of the baggage, yeah.
With all the
So like
baggage.
I love beautiful baggage that I still carry on my little backpack on my shoulder.
Okay.
So I love that you're a psychic medium, because my spiritual mammy is psychic medium. So I started on this journey, I suppose, awakening journey back when I was 26 or 27. So
Yeah.
she always told me about this Canadian guy coming in, and I didn't believe it. I was like, oh yeah, yeah. And all of a sudden he appeared, and he was on holidays in Dublin,
Ooh.
January 2019, I think it was. But at the
Okay.
same time, he's from around this region. At the same time, we found out that we had a half sister that my dad actually hid.
Okay.
So that was another trauma on top of all the other traumas.
Oh,
Um, and as I started to interact with him, I realized that like he lived in the same place where my sister lives, right? So I planned this big trip. Yeah, it was wild. They're
that's
literally
a
10 minutes up the
synchronicity.
road from each
Yeah.
other, right?
Yeah.
So I was
Right.
like, obviously, because obviously when we're in trauma, like we're very delusional, right? We make fairy
Yeah.
tales out of everything, because we don't actually see the real reality. And like at the deep core of who I was at the time, I just wanted to be rescued. I was a little girl and I just wanted to be loved. I wanted my daddy to love me, right?
Right.
So he embodied a lot of the energies that my dad did. And again, this was all
Aw.
unconscious. But I came here and fell head over heels in love, although the person was very narcissistic, very manipulative,
Aw.
put me down and so forth. And I got back to Ireland, and the plan was obviously to move over here, to move in together, and just woke up one day with a message saying I don't want to do this anymore. And
Aw.
like literally my whole world just boom. I
Oof.
thought I'd met my soulmate, the love of my life,
Yep.
And
So
then from
interesting.
there I
Same kind of
was
story. Yeah.
yeah,
Interesting.
same. But do you know what the thing is, Tracy, is that when you're really vulnerable and like you want someone to tell you that things are going to be okay. So like I had different mediums telling me that this person he was coming back. So I waited for a year, even though I was in chronic pain. My nervous system was like, I was having
Mhm.
suicidal thoughts. I ended up on
Yes.
Xanax. I was on antidepressants. I crashed my
Yes.
car numerous times. I had to take time off work because I was that bad. Like my mom wanted to put me into hospital. I was that
Hospital.
bad. Like, yeah.
It really whipped the rug out from under you. Yeah.
Oh my God. It was
Completely.
horrendous.
Yeah. So
I've never experienced pain like that.
like that. Oh, mom, I'm so sorry.
I
That's
know.
horrible.
But do you know what I kept saying was I feel like someone is gutting me. I lost so much weight because I wasn't able to eat. It felt like someone just kept stabbing me in the stomach. But like
Okay.
now that I know what I know, it was literally all of the pent up energy, all of the pent up pain in my body that I hadn't actually released from my father,
Yeah.
like from the childhood trauma
Childhood.
that I went through,
Yeah. It's so
you know?
important. I'm working on an inner child healing workshop because I just think, yeah, it's just so important to go back and heal some of that stuff.
Yeah.
Right. But then now,
Yeah.
can you look back and be grateful for what you went through? Are you at that point yet?
Oh my,
Where go?
do you know what? It's actually like because my life now is so different to then, even like how I feel in my body, how
Yeah.
I feel about myself. Like
Mhm.
I've so much self-worth, so much
Yeah.
self-love. I'm so confident. I trust myself. I feel safe in myself. I don't go looking externally for any answers. I'm a very
Yes.
regulated person. And like I'm literally just living life like in a lens that's just so pure, and everything just seems so magical. Even like coming out to Dallas, here in Vancouver, like old me wouldn't have been able to manifest any of this because I was so low in vibration,
Yeah.
So
Yep.
you
Yeah.
heal your life just as you heal. It's just magical. So
It's
yes,
so
I'm so
magical. Like
happy it all happened. Yeah, yeah,
that's
yeah.
that's what I
It's
tell people. On the
amazing.
other side of healing is a magical life if you'll just take the
Really.
journey. It really is.
It's
So
hard. It's so hard to get through it. It's
it is.
very painful, but it's
All
so
right.
worth it.
So worth it. So when we come back, we're going to talk
Oh.
about what you did to heal, what your practice is like, but
Mhm.
we're going to take a really quick break. You're watching The Soul's Journey on Bull Brave TV, and we'll be right back.
What if there were a super tiny device that could diagnose the brain and is smaller than a single human hair? What if you could see inside the brain to help an epilepsy patient during surgery or to help the fight against Parkinson's disease? Dr. Patricia Broderick is proud to announce the Broderick Probe, a biomedical and electronic breakthrough. Imagine a probe to help with the understanding and potential cure of brain-related diseases. To learn more, listen live to the Easy Sense radio show with host Dr. Broderick, Wednesdays 7 p.m. Eastern on the Bold Brave Media Network and TuneIn Radio. And to help support the Broderick Foundation, please go to EasySense.com and learn how, with your help, we can fight these horrific brain disorders. That's EasySense.com to learn more and help support the Broderick Foundation. Author, radio show host, and coach John M. Hawkins reveals strategies to help gain perspective, build confidence, find clarity, achieve goals. John M. Hawkins' new book, Coached to Greatness, Unlock Your Full Potential with Limitless Growth, published by iUniverse. Hawkins reveals strategies to help readers accomplish more. He believes the book can coach them to greatness. Hawkins says that the best athletes get to the top of their sport with the help of coaches, mentors, and others. He shares guidance that helps readers reflect on what motivates them. Rediscover and assess their core values, philosophies, and competencies. Find settings that allow them to be the most productive and track their progress towards accomplishing goals. Listen to John Hawkins' My Strategy, Saturdays, 1 p.m. Eastern on the BBM Global Network and TuneIn Radio.
And welcome back to the Soul's Journey on Bull Brave TV Network. We are talking today about trauma and abandonment and healing with my guest, Danielle Hayes. Come on back, Danielle. Hello.
Hi.
Before we dropped off to commercial, we were talking just about the healing, and like both of us, we've both been through healing, and the life that today I'm the happiest I've ever been in my life. I make the most money I've ever made in my life. I call in the best people I've ever had in my life. I'm in the best relationship I've ever been in my life. I mean, it just goes on. I've written a book. I've created a deck of cards. Like it does. Like, y'all go heal because it's amazing, right? Yeah. And I'm at that place in life, and I don't know if you're there too, but life can happen. And yes, we are earthbound spirits. Life happens, but it doesn't take me out like it used to. Does that make sense? Like, right? I'm so happy from the inside out that it's just little speed bumps now. It's not a landslide. Does that make sense? It's not a landslide. I just like, okay, it's part of the, I would tell my clients, flow like the water, just kind of flow over the stuff, just flow, right? Be in no resistance. So
I remember when I remember even getting like a ticket off the police, and I would be in such panic mode. Whereas now I'm just like, because we understand karma. It was like, oh, it's just energy going back. Whereas old me was freaked out by it.
Yes, that's how I was too. And just the anxiety attached to all that. And I always had like anxiety, like something next was going to happen. Like, okay, what's next going to happen? What rug is coming out next, or what floor is dropping next? So, just living in a constant state of fear, right? But then I started my whole gratitude journey, just trying to be grateful and change my mindset, right? And I think Lulu taught me something, that fear can't live with gratitude in the same. Fear is on one side and gratitude is on the other. Like, I'm learning so much. And so it's like, okay, that's why it works. Like, get up, be gratitude, find the little things you can be. It's not about being toxic positivity, because that's a big term being thrown out too right now, toxic positivity. But it can really change your brain and your mindset if you just find the things to be grateful for and zone in on that instead of all the lack or the void or the hurt and the pain, right? Any advice for people who are kind of in their pain right now? What would you tell them?
Like, obviously pain is embodied, right? It's down here in your nervous system. It's visceral in your body. So like the portal to true embodied healing is getting down into the somatic system and working with it instead of running away from it. It's like the cat with the mouse. Like it's gonna catch it at some point. You're just gonna stay in cycles of behaviors that are limiting, in belief systems that don't actually fulfill you or bring you like into alignment with beautiful things, right? But also you have side effects like physiological symptoms, high pain markers, ton of inflammation, heart issues. Like when your nervous system is dysregulated, like it interferes with all your vital organs. That's where the COPD comes in, Crohn's disease, autoimmune disease. It's like if you regulate.
Yep, I have Hashimoto's. I have a thyroid issue. Yep.
I'm so excited for you to have a session. Oh my God.
Yeah, me too. I wanted to. So I deal with tons of inflammation in my body, tons of joint pain, hurting all the time. I have really bad pinched nerves in my neck, down my arms, like lower back. I've had 3 surgeries on my back. So all the things that you described, I suffered from. So I'm super excited.
We'll be able to work with them.
Yeah, I'm super excited about that because I've done everything else. I'm like the self-reflecting, the mindset work, the gratitude work, but I've never done the physiological stuff, right? The body stuff. So I'm excited about that. Yeah.
It's tough. It's a tough process because I physically am hands-on with people. I don't have my nails when I'm doing them. If I do, they break. But like I'm working on the physical body, like releasing trigger points, because a lot of our trauma is stored in the fascia. Because obviously when we move into trauma, the nervous system becomes very shocked, like the muscles contract, then the fascia gets tight. So most people that have trauma are like in pain. They've tightness in the shoulders, jaw pain is a big one, and lower back pain too is a big one too. And ancestral trauma is carried there as well. So
So I'm going to take you back. So he left. He gave you that little notes and said he couldn't do it anymore, right? You spent a year suffering through your pain.
Mm,
What happened? Did
yeah.
you wake up one day and say enough is enough? Like what happened next?
I remember sitting in the church. I was on situational depression leave from school. I just couldn't cope. And I remember looking at, like, I don't tell many people this, but like Jesus has appeared to me, Mother Mary has appeared to me. I'm very, very spiritual as well. And I remember looking at Jesus and thinking, help me, I need help.
Oh,
I can't even
you,
choke now, even
I
remembering.
know,
I was like, I need
I
help.
know. Yeah.
I was like, I don't want to be in this pain anymore. And then I swear to God, like clockwork, the next day, I found my metaphysical therapist to work with. I found a psychologist who was a spiritual healer. And I
Yeah.
found another like spiritual mentor who practiced shamanic work and somatic therapy. So I had 3 people. It's like the Holy Trinity, right? 3 people to help me.
Wow.
And I just, like, and the healing was just so fast then. It just
Yeah.
happened rapidly for me because I just
Good.
wanted it, right?
Because you want, and that's the thing I tell
Yeah.
people too. You have to want it, right? I can
You
tell
have to
people all
want
day
it.
long, this is what you need to do. This is what you need to do. You know, I have a friend
Mm-hmm.
who needed therapy, and I would constantly say, you need therapy. But in their mind, when they're in that space, they don't even understand how therapy could even help because they're already in that mindset
Yeah.
that this is how their brain functions and works. And
Mm,
she, you know, her
yeah.
thing was, well, therapists can tell me all day long not to love this person, not to be around this person, or, but I'm still going to want to love them. I'm still going to want to do it. So how does therapy retrain you, or how does it, like, if you had that kind of person who came to you and say, I don't understand how therapy could help, right? This is who I am, this is how I'm thinking,
Mm-hmm.
what would you say to them? Like, how could you convince, like,
Well, like, again,
tell
I have embodied experience of that because I used this. I was working with a psychologist, and weekly I was paying money weekly, and I was like, oh, nothing's happening. I'm talking about this person over and over again, like wrecking people's heads, very Irish term,
me?
like doing
Yes,
people's heads in, talking about it and not moving forward. So like we can talk about this stuff over and over again, but
over and
like
over.
you're not actually coming down and regulating your emotional
No,
experiences in your body, and working with your limbic system and like calming your amygdala. It's a little gland that activates the stress response. So
yeah.
that's why they like the CBT therapy and talk therapy. They don't actually help people. They help to a certain degree, giving you an awareness around your wounds, but they're not going to bring you down into the body and complete the trauma cycle in the system so that you actually are releasing all of the pain energy out of your body. It's all energy. It's all energy. That's the
All
core of it, is
energy.
energy inside the system. Yeah.
I find it so fascinating, so fascinating. So you went
Yeah.
through your therapy, you found all the people. How did you find out? You have so many things that you do. Were you just in that state where you wanted to learn everything, all the healing modalities? Did you just do a lot? How was your training like?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, tell me through that.
Well, yeah, shivers as well. So was it June 2020? I know. I remember sitting in the classroom and thinking, this is just not who I am anymore. So I said, I don't want this anymore. I walked away with no income, no anything, went off to Tanzania, had a massive soul activation there. And from there, I came home and I was like, okay, I'm going to start training. So I asked Spirit to send me a course on trauma. Then my traumatology diploma showed up.
I love that.
And
It's
then I
called a
started doing
traumatology.
energy traumatology. Yeah, it's only new in Ireland, and it's accredited by the Psychology Society of Ireland. So there's not many people that have done it. But it's so
Hmm.
funny because I was sitting in a lecture hall full of psychotherapists, and I was just like, "Hi, I'm Danielle. I just want to know more about myself." And they were all like professionals in the field, and I was like, "I just want to know about my trauma."
That's it. That's
Yeah,
it.
literally, yeah. So like the
Yeah.
intention was never necessarily to do what I'm doing. It's just unfolded that way.
Okay.
I just did it to heal myself.
But don't you think maybe that's how it was meant to be all along?
Absolutely, yeah.
Right? I look
I
back
didn't
and it's
know
like,
at the time.
I know we don't know at the time, but it's like, okay, I can
Yeah,
look back now and see, okay, that person came into my life to get me to this place and this place to this place. It's
yeah,
like I follow the breadcrumbs now. I was like, okay, it was all like a master plan. It's just so crazy. And then
literally.
when you are doing and living your purpose, I feel like everything just comes easier. It like falls into your feet. I
Hmm.
don't know how else to explain it. If you're doing things that aren't your
Yeah,
purpose, I feel like there's more resistance or it doesn't come as easy.
yeah,
But when you're doing what you're meant
yeah.
to be doing and you're living at that high vibration because you're so happy, like being in
Hmm.
purpose and living a purpose that just kind of unfolds. People come to your life to get you to the next level of
Alignment.
yes. That's
Hmm.
what makes
Yeah,
the healing part so magical is the after part because You are in alignment, mind, body, and soul, and things just start coming and folding, and that's how you know, I think, when you're on the right path and you're doing your work, right? And so, is that how you feel about yourself now, helping others heal?
Like it's wild because obviously I was always seeking like the contract to teach, and I was always trying to find the right school to be in, and like as soon as I let that go and like literally like did all the shadow work and then came into like fully meeting my spirit, like just things just naturally show up and align. Just I don't have to do anything, like that feminine energy. I'm just flowing with the universe, and things like Lulu showing up, you showing up. I didn't go
Yeah,
looking for anything, right?
right,
It's all
right.
those alignments. Yeah. You're out of your own way, basically.
That's what I'm saying, right?
Yeah.
And so, even before I had Lulu on and you on, and this is what I'm saying, the spirit is just amazing. Like I have a mediumship workshop that I'm working in August, and I don't know, I just got this thing. There has to be more there, because when I teach mediumship, I teach you got to do healing too. It's two side by side. You have to have both. It's like a self-development
Absolutely.
journey. You have to have it. So I'm teaching the mediumship, but the healing part people are just missing. So I went to the store and I was like, I need 2 workshops. I want like an inner child healing workshop, and I want a breaking down what energetic blocks we have within us. So I have these workshops, but I have no idea how I'm going to teach, what I'm going to teach. And then Lulu comes, right? We have a show. And then you come in and like we have a
I
show.
know.
Now
Over
I'm going to
here.
go, right? And now I'm going to go have a session
Oh,
so I can experience it for
I'm
myself.
getting
Like,
shivers.
right? So you need to come back in November. You need to come back in October. I'm
I
like, when I'm doing these
will.
classes.
Do you know what? I feel spirit is keeping me here. Like the plan is to emigrate to West Coast Canada to be in Vancouver. It feels like home. But like obviously there's alignment with Dallas. I'm meant to be down there too. So
Yeah,
I will be
there's
back,
something, there's something.
Absolutely. Yeah,
And then
there's something
as we're
aligning.
talking, Lulu's texting me. She's like, okay, so she's watching. Say hey. So
I
I
love
think
her. I love the two of us.
I know, but it's so cool. And the coolest thing about Lulu too for me, I've never met her. Like only online, and we live in the same
I've never met her either. Yeah,
live in the same city. She randomly
yeah.
booked a consultation session with me like over a year and a half ago, a year
Wow.
ago. Random, but sometimes when you get into contact with people, you don't exactly know why yet.
And then it unfolds.
But it unfolds, and it unfolded like over a year
Yeah,
later. But I've always
yeah.
said, no, I can't write that person off. Like she's here for a reason. I just don't know what it is yet. Right. So we
Mhm.
follow each other on Facebook. She'll reach out. I'll reach
Yeah.
out. But I just think it's so crazy how it all unfolds when it's supposed to. And you just have this feeling you said, trust it. Right.
I feel like she's like an angel sent to me. I said to her, like, just like she had a session with me, and then it just went from there. We just felt an
Wow.
instant soul connection, and we're chatting on WhatsApp, and then all of a
Yeah.
sudden she's like, "Do you want to be on this show?" And she's after sending me another link to another podcast, and I'm just like, "Who are you and where have you come from? You're like on a different planet, right?" I'm
Exactly.
like,
And she is so
just
beautiful that way.
beautiful person.
Willing to
Yeah,
share, not gatekeep. Like she's willing to help
yeah,
people. Like she's been a beautiful
yeah,
soul too, and for the show too, helping me. It's a new show, and okay, I need help,
yeah,
so she's helping me get people on. So it's been
yeah.
beautiful. So I can't wait for you to come down. I want to meet both of you finally in person.
So
Yeah,
excited. Yeah, could be
So
great.
yeah, you'll be in a couple of weeks, so I'm super excited for you too. I love your story. I love that you're helping. Are you opening? Do you have a storefront? Is it all online? Tell me about your business.
Well, like obviously my business is back in Ireland, my therapy space. I'm actually running the space in my brother's gym space. So like we're in a kind of co-creation where the gym is part of the holistic wellness. And it's the only place in Ireland that's doing it right. So in the back of the therapy room, I have my infrared sauna, well his are infrared sauna, and we've called therapy, and then I do the somatic work in there and like energy realignment work.
Yeah.
So like that's obviously physically back in Ireland, but the plan is obviously to set up studio here and hold
Okay,
spaces
good.
here with Nor and
Perfect.
everything, you know. Yeah,
Yes. And then we'll get you to
but
Texas.
I'm
We can do
so
it anywhere
open.
for
Yeah,
workshops. Yeah.
I'm
We'll
so open
expand
to like
you.
the expansion. But like my spiritual mommy dear, like she said this to me for so long, and I never believed her. She was like, "You're meant for big things. You're going to travel across the world to do this work." And I
You
was like,
are.
"Okay." And now it's like
Sure. And
literally
now look,
happening, right?
look. And
Yeah.
so if
But
everybody's
I don't feel
watching,
like I'm getting pulled away. I'm very grounded in it, and I'm just like being in
yeah.
the flow with it, you know. Yeah.
Yeah, so good. So for everybody watching, we put up Danielle's stuff on the screen. You can find her on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook. She's got a web page too, right? Any of this stuff can be done via Zoom. Can you guys do it virtually?
Oh
Or
yeah,
is it all
absolutely.
okay?
All of
Okay.
all of my clients in Ireland are online with me. Obviously, the difference between online and in person, I'm actually working directly on the fascia,
On you.
and you're just sitting
Okay.
into the body while I'm working on you. You're not self-healing, basically,
Okay,
you know?
perfect. Yeah. So if anybody wants to
Hmm.
book a session, feel free, go look up her stuff. She's got some amazing stuff. If you're in the Dallas area, she'll be here. She's got one session left because I'm taking the other one. I'm
One
claiming
session.
it. I'm claiming it. It's mine. So don't give it away. I'm going to claim it. And I can't wait. And so how long is your sessions? Usually like 2 hours? Is that what it is?
So, like, I
Per
normally
day?
offer 90 minutes, but for me as the facilitator, it's never enough. I prefer people to have a 2 hour block because obviously it's psychosomatic. I can't bring you down into the body until I know psychologically and obviously with the limbic system, subconsciously, what's going on a memory level.
Yeah.
And then I bring people down into the body. But like if you go into a neurogenic release, they can last for, depending on the amount of trauma down there and the amount of energy, pent up energy, that could last for 30, 40 minutes. So you're better
Okay.
off having the 2 hour block for yourself. Otherwise, then I
Perfect.
have to manipulate to stop the shaking, the releasing.
Yeah. Oh, I can't wait. And then I'll come back
Yeah,
on
it's
here and
like
talk all
it's
about
like an
it.
exorcism now. Like
It is, I know. Maybe
an
that's,
exorcism, yeah.
yeah, maybe that's what it used to be.
Yeah,
We'll
could
see. We'll
be.
go down. We could go down theories, but
Yeah,
for sure. Well, I appreciate you being on the show. We're already out of time. Can you believe how fast it goes? It just goes so
I know.
fast.
Looks like that an hour.
That's it. It is. We just keep talking and talking. So thank you for being on the show. I hope some of our listeners got something for that. I hope they go look you up. We get a session. I promise you, if you commit to your healing, life just changes, right? And you
Mhm.
may not even know you need it. But I promise you, there's
Mm.
trauma somewhere, right? There's trauma built up somewhere, I promise you. And some of the things that you're doing in life or your patterns that you're repeating have everything to do with some of your trauma. So I encourage everybody to be on a self-reflection journey, go figure out, ask yourself why you do what you do, and then maybe, right, hit up Danielle for a session. I know I'm going to, and I can't wait to talk about it. Again, thank you for being on the show. Her business is called Firefly Therapy. Yes.
Mhm.
And you can
Mhm.
find her on social media everywhere. You even have a TikTok. I just went and saw it because I'm on
I
TikTok too. So
do,
I'm gonna,
yeah.
I'm gonna go follow you on TikTok as well. All right, and that's the end of our show. We will be back next week. You are watching The Soul's Journey on Bull Brave TV Network. Thanks, Danielle. We'll talk to you all soon. Bye-bye.
Thanks so much.
Bye.
Bye.
This has been The Soul's Journey with your host, Tracy Escobar. Tune in each week and be inspired through the voices of those living the journey and those who have already passed on. Fridays, 5 p.m. Eastern on the Bold Brave TV Network.